And all that generation were likewise gathered to their fathers, and another generation arose after them who did not know Yahuwah, nor the work which he had done for Israel. Then the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah and served the Baalim, and forsook Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and went after other mighty ones, of the mighty ones of the people who were all around them, and they bowed down to them and provoked Yahuwah. So they forsook Yahuwah and served Baal and the Ashtaroth. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel. Therefore he gave them into the hands of plunderers who despoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around. And they were unable to stand before their enemies any longer. Wherever they went out, the hand of Yahuwah was against them for evil, as Yahuwah had spoken, and as Yahuwah had sworn to them. And they were distressed greatly. Then Yahuwah raised up rulers and saved them from the hand of those who plundered them. However, they did not listen to their rulers either. They went whoring after other mighty ones and bowed down to them. They soon turned aside from the way in which their fathers walked, and obeying the commands of Yahuwah, they did not do so. And when Yahuwah raised up rulers for them, Yahuwah was the ruler and saved them from the hand of their enemies, all the yaman of the ruler. For Yahuwah had compassion on their groaning because of those who oppressed them and crushed them. And it came to be when the ruler was dead that they would turn back and do more corruptly than their fathers, to go after other mighty ones, to serve them and bow down to them. They did not refrain from their practices and from their stubborn way. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel. And he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant that I commanded to their fathers, and has not obeyed my voice, I also shall no longer drive out before them any of the nations which Yahuwah left when he died, in order to try Israel by them, whether they would guard the way of Yahuwah, to walk in them as their fathers guarded them or not. So Yahuwah left up those nations without driving them out at once, and did not give them into the hand of Yahushua.
Okay. All righty. All right. So this chapter here presents us with this vicious cycle that we were talking about earlier. Can somebody explain this vicious cycle to us? What's this reoccurring cycle of Israel? Phyllis?
Following other mighty ones, pleading and calling on Yahuwah, serving him, and then falling away again.
Yeah. Okay, so Joshua and all the elders in the obedient generation all died, right? The next generation falls into idolatry, and they begin to serve other mighty ones that the people of the land, the inhabitants of the land, serve. And because of this, and so we would say that they began to commit idolatry, right? And then it explains that Yahuwah stopped protecting them and stopped fighting for them because of what they did, right? So through this vicious cycle, then what's next? So they begin to worship idols. Yahuwah allows their enemies, the occupiers of this land, the inhabitants of the land, to oppress them. Then what? Joe?
Isn't this the the basic cycle of sin and death?
Yeah, and we can say that. Sandra?
So they're fulfilling the prophecy that Deuteronomy 32 and Musha said a prophecy about them doing this when he left in Deuteronomy 33. Their hearts were not steadfast in trusting in Yahuwah. They forgot him. And that's how they, after the ones, they were like sheep without a pasture, scattered and going, leaning to their own understanding, not following unto Yahuwah and keeping to the right rulings that he had put them under. They got into their flesh and broke who they were called to serve. They broke that and went into their flesh and started following those other mighty ones, bringing those curses. And then they were like treating Yahuwah like he was, they didn't really know him. They whenever they got in trouble, they called out to him. They knew that when they got in trouble, he was a deliverer. They did remember that. But whenever they were relieved, they soon quickly forgot him and went back into their old idolatrous and pagan ways, sort of like what we are today as a people, not following him with our whole hearts.
Okay. All right. So they began to worship other idols, and then Yahuwah allows their enemies to oppress them, and then they cry out in agony to Yahuwah to help them, and then Yahuwah delivers them, and then the ruler dies, and it starts all over again. Do you think that this vicious cycle is continuing even today?
Mhm.
Mark?
Those who fail to study history are doomed to repeat it. Very common.
And that is so true. And it's a shame that most people don't bother to read Judges, read this book. Go ahead, Chance.
Something that's sticking out to me here is in chapter 2, verse 10. Another generation arose after them who did not know Yahuwah. That's really impactful, considering where I came from. My mothers and fathers didn't know Yahuwah, and I wasn't taught any value in Yahuwah's ways. So that's very impactful, and it speaks to my inner being when I hear that, because if we're not taught, we're not raised in Yahuwah, how can we possibly obey and do what he's asking of us? So it's an evil combination that I'm seeing here. Just an evil combination of worshiping Elohim, transgressing, whoring on Yahuwah, idolatry. This is a very evil combination right here.
Why do you think that is? That this generation did not know Yahweh? Whose fault is that? Phyllis?
The parents.
Yeah.
And that's exactly leads to the comment I wanted to make. One day I just woke up to the realization that we had that in place already before I was born. There was already in place these traditions, and everybody just followed them blindly. And I just kind of woke up to that, and I said, nobody even questions them. Nobody knows the history. Nobody knows where it come from. Nobody knows. And that's what they're dealing with.
Yeah. So the parents didn't teach the children about Yahuwah. So the children learn other things from other people. And so then what does that generation pass on to their children? The knowledge of Yahuwah, or what they were taught by others? What they were taught by others. And that begins another vicious cycle, doesn't it? So is there any thoughts, comments, or questions here on this chapter, chapter 2? Okay, so we're going to go into chapter 3 here. And chapter 3 is establishes the same reoccurring cycle of sin, oppression, crying out for help and deliverance. But Yahuwah all of a sudden designates a ruler for them to try to help them out. And so we begin with the first of the judges here in this chapter. So who would like to read that? Phyllis, go ahead.
No, I don't want to read, but I had a question. What is there any reference to a time frame of chapter 2 before we get into chapter 3? I mean, how many spans of years were going by, generations?
Well, the whole book of Judges is about 300 to 350 years long. It's about 300 to 350 year period, the entire book. Okay? After the death of Joshua. As far as a date goes, that's assumption. We can throw dates at you, but it's really an assumption. They really don't know the exact dates. But there is about a 300, 350 year period that engulfs the entire book.
So what portion of that do you think covers up to chapter 2?
Not much, because it's just really repeating what Joshua had already written. But we're going to start now in chapter 3.
Okay.
We're going to pretty much get into the 300-year period beginning in chapter 3. Okay? But the same reoccurring cycle does reoccur in chapter 3. It just keeps going, man, through this entire book. It's just crazy. Who wants to read chapter 3? Unless there's any comments or questions or thoughts up to this point. If not, go ahead, Oz.
Chapter 3. And these are the nations which Yahuwah left to try Yisharal by them, all those who had not known all the battles in Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them battle, only those who before did not know them, 5 princes of the Philistine, and all the Canaanites and the Sidonites and the Quiz who dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Carmon to the entrance of Hamath. And they were to try Israel by them to know whether they will obey the commands of Yahuwah, which he had commanded their fathers by the hand of Moshe. Those, the children of Israel, dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites, the Chathites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Quiz, and the Jebusi, and took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons. And they served their mighty ones. Thus the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and forgot Yahuwah, their Elohim, and served the Baalim and the Asherim.
Okay, stop. Okay, so right there is number 1, right? Idolatry. See the cycle? So 1 through 7, we could say, is a testing of Israel. And they flunk because they start committing idolatry. The beginning of a vicious cycle. Okay, let's continue on then.
And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan Rishathaim, sovereign of Aram Naharaim. And the children of Israel served Cushan Rishathaim 8 years. Can you turn it off, T? Yes. And when the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised up a deliverer for the children of Israel, who delivered them, Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. And the Ruach of Yahuwah came upon him, and he ruled Israel and went out to battle. And Yahuwah gave into his hand. Yeah, I'm coming. And Yahuwah gave into his hand Cushan Rishathaim, sovereign of Aram Naharaim. And his hand prevailed over Cushan Rishathaim. And the land had rest for 40 years. Then Othniel, son of Kenaz, died. And the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah made Eglon, sovereign of Moab, strong against Israel. Against Israel, because they had done evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. Hold on a second.
Okay. Hold on there, Oz. I'll give you a break here. Okay, so can anybody identify the four cycles of this vicious cycle, the four positions of it so far? Okay.
What do you mean?
Okay, well, for instance, verses 1 through 7 is idolatry, the beginning of the cycle. Verse 8 would be the oppression. See, the pleasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he sold them to the hands of the Cushites, Cushan. See, so there's the oppression because of their idolatry. And then they cry out to Yahuwah, right? And in number 9, and when the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah, see that? So they cry out. That's the third position of the cycle. And then in 10, and the Ruach of Yahuwah came upon him, and he ruled Israel, speaking of the first judge, and who he out to battle, and Yahuwah gave into his hand the sovereign of Aram. And so there is the deliverance of Yahuwah. So there's your cycle: idolatry, oppression, deliverance, or a cry out and deliverance. See it? This is repeated constantly throughout this entire chapter, and really throughout the entire history of mankind. We need to recognize this cycle. There's only one way to break the cycle. And the first thing you have to do is recognize it as for what it is. Are y'all picking up what I'm laying down? All right. So this is the also mentions the first judge. So the first judge here is Othniel. Everybody seeing that? Othniel. He's spoken about here in chapter 3, verse 7 through 11. He's the first judge, if you will, or ruler. And he killed the Cushan king. So this guy here ruled under 8 years of oppression and 40 years of peace. The proposed date here, Phyllis, and again, this is an assumption, would be 1367 through 1327 BCE, the beginning of the Judges. Okay? Chapter 3. Like I say, it spans over about a 330 year-ish period of time, the entire book. All right. Any comments, thoughts, or questions up to this point? Okay, Yas, let's continue on, brother.
I just posted a link in the private chat. Mark, you can take it. There is the chronological graphic of Judges, which you guys were.
Where at?
It's in the private chat.
Private chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hang on a minute. Oh, okay. That shows, what does that show? All the judges?
Mm.
Does that show all the judges? That link?
It shows the timeline.
Oh, let me get to it. Hang on a minute. Let me
Okay.
see if it might not open up for me.
13. And he gathered to himself the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. And the children of Israel served Eglon, sovereign of Moab, 18 years. And when the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised up a deliverer for them, Ehud, son of Jerah, a Benjamite, a man impeded in his right hand. And by him the children of Israel sent a present to Eglon, sovereign of Moab. And Ehud made himself a sword. It was double-edged and a cubit in length, and he girded under his long tunic on his right side. And he brought the present to Eglon, sovereign of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man, and it came to be that when he had finished bringing near the present, he sent away the people bearing the present. But he himself turned back from the stone images that were at Gilgal, and said, I have a secret message for you, O sovereign. And he said, Be silent. And all those standing beside him went out from him. And Ehud came to him while he was sitting in his roof room, and Ehud said, I have a message from Elohim for you. So he arose from his seat, and Ehud reached with his left hand, and took the sword from his right side, and thrust into his stomach. And the handle went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not draw the sword out of his stomach, and it came out behind. When Ehud went out to the porch and shut the door of the upper room behind him and locked him, and when he had gone out, his servants came to look and saw the doors of the roof were locked. So they say, he is only covering his feet in the cool roof room. And they waited until they were ashamed, but saw he was not opening the door of the upper room. So they took the key and opened them, and saw their master falling on the ground and dead. And while they were delaying, Ehud escaped, and had passed beyond the stone images, and escaped to Seirah. And it came to be when he arrived, and he blew the ram's horn in the mountains of Ephraim. And the children of Israel went down with him from the mountains, with him leading them. And he said to them, Follow me, for Yahuwah has given your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the ford of Jordan leading to Moab, the ford, and did not allow anyone to pass over. And they smote about 10,000 men of Moab at the time, all robust and brave men, and not a man escaped. And on that Yom Moab was humbled under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. And after him was
Okay, stop. Okay, so here we go now. 12 through 30, okay? Verses 12 through 30 is the second judge. It's Ehud, okay? So Ehud is Judges 3, 12 through 30. He's a Benjamite. By the way, Othniel was from the tribe of Judah. Okay. And so the first judge was from Judah. This guy here, Ehud, is a Benjamite. Okay. And he kills the king of Moab. During his reign, there's 18 years of oppression and 80 years of peace. He served from around 1309 to 1229 BCE. Now, one of the most interesting things about this dude is over here in 15. It says, and when the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah, see that cried out? We're in the cycle again. Okay, so they were committing idolatry. Now they're crying out. Okay, then he delivers them. Okay, and but anyway, in 15 here it says Ehud, son of Gera, a Benjamite, was a man impeded in his right hand. So what does that mean? It just means he was left-handed. That's all it means. So if you go over to verse 21, it says, and Ehud reached with his left hand and took the sword from his right thigh, thrust it into his stomach, proving that he was left-handed. So that's all that means. So this was a left-handed Benjamite. Now, I don't know if you've ever read the story about left-handed Benjamites, but they were like the Spartans of the time, man. I mean, they were extremely powerful. They said every single one of them could split a camel's hair with an arrow. They were all left-handed bowsmen. So there is no curse because of a left-handed person. Actually, if you read about it, they were all very highly blessed. They were a big deal. Okay. Let me let Mark in here. Hang on. There we go. So again, second judge, Ehud. All right.
Mark?
Yeah, June.
I remember somewhere in my studies, I read a lot of archaeology stuff, but I had read somewhere where that tribe, they would actually train their children to use their left hands. So they would take a rope or something and tie their right hand when they were small behind their back and make them do with their left hand till they got very good with it. So I think, that was part of their training up, as you could say.
That's interesting. I've never read that, but yeah, that would make sense. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But we get into it, you'll see that the Benjamites were almost wiped out by the rest of the tribes. But we'll get into that much later. Any thoughts, comments, or questions here on Ehud? All right, let's go ahead and finish that.
And after him was Shamgar, son of Anath, and he smote 600 men of the Philistine with an ox goad. And he too delivered Israel.
Okay. So there you go. There's the third judge. Very short. Only one verse about this dude. There's only one verse that doesn't speak anything else about this man. So the third judge is Shamgar, found in Judges 3:31. It really doesn't tell us what tribe he was from, so we don't even know that. We do know that his enemy was the Philistines, and he smote them, 600 of them, using an ox goad, which is a farming tool. Everybody know what an ox goad is? And that's all he used. And he killed 600 Philistines with his bare hands. It's about all we know about this guy. That's it. Other than that, we know he was the third judge of the third military ruler, if you will, of Israel. Kind of reminds you of Samson, doesn't he? Must have been pretty strong to kill 600 men with an ox goad. And it says, and he too delivered Yisrael. Sandra?
I was just gonna tell you that the ox goad is the like guide that they put around the neck collar of an ox when they're using the ox to plow. It's also lamed, the main meaning of lamad in the Hebrew alphabet, goad. And when Yahusha spoke to Shaul, he said, "How hard is it for you to kick against the goads?" In other words, the goad guides the animal so that can plow straight.
All right. So if the ox tries to kick against the goad, all it does is cause him more misery, more pain and suffering. So he learns not to do it and just walk the straight line, the straight path.
Which is what they were doing, right?
Yeah. What's any your thoughts, comments, or questions on chapter 3? 1, 2, or 3 now? Phil, what's up? Ah, we lost Phil. Okay, so there's your first 3 judges. Now we're going to get into the 4th judge, which is one of the more famous judges, and that's Deborah. So Deborah takes up chapter 4 and 5. Who would like to read about Deborah? Phil, did you have your hand up to read, brother? Is that what you were doing?
Yep, I'm doing it.
All right.
Okay, chapter 4, Judges, verse 1. And when Hud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of YAHUAH. Therefore YAHUAH sold them into the hand of Jabin, the sovereign of Canaan, who reside in Katsar. And the commander of his army was Sisera, who was dwelling in Korisheth Hagamon Yam. And the children of Israel cried out to YAHUAH because he had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he harshly oppressed the children of Israel. And Deborah, a prophetess, and the Asha of Lepetoth was ruling Israel at that time. And she was dwelling under the palm tree of Deborah between Rahamim and Baheth Al in the mountains of Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for right ruling. And she sent and called for Barak, son of Abanoam, and Kodesh and Naphtali, and said to him, has not YAHUAH Elohim of Israel commanded, go, and ye shall draw towards Mount Tabor, and shall take with you 10,000 men of sons of Naphtali, and the sons of Zebulun, and shall draw unto you Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, and his chariots, and his company at the Wadi Cushan, and give them into your hand. And Baruch said to her, if you go with me, then I shall go, but if you do not go with me, I do not go. And she said, I shall certainly go with you. Only these shall be no esteem for you in the journey, for you are taking, for YAHUAH is going to sell Sisera into the hand of an Asha. So Deborah arose and went to Barak Kadesh, and Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up 10,000 men under his command, and Deborah went with him. And the Keber of Quilnite of the children of Kobab, the father-in-law of Musha, had separated himself from the Quilnites and pitched his tent under the terebinth tree at Sanaim, which is beside Kadesh. And he reported to Sisera that Baruch, son of Abonim, had gone up to the Mount Tabor. So Sisera called all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the people who were with him from Keresheth Haganum of Wade Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, rise up, for this is the yom in which Yahuwah has given Sisera into your hand. Has not Yahuwah gone out before you? And Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men after him. And Yahuwah destroyed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera leaped from his chariot and fled away on foot. Excuse me. But Baruch pursued the chariots and the army as far as Kerosith Haganim, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not one was left. Sisera, meanwhile, had fled on foot to the tent of Yael and Asha of Cabir and Quainite, for there was peace between Yabin, the sovereign of Katzar, and the house of Cabir in Quainite. And Yael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, turn aside, my master, turn aside to me, do not fear. So he turned aside with her and went to the tent, and she covered him with a blanket. And he said to her, please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a bottle of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, stand by the door of the tent, and it shall be, if anyone comes and asks you and says, is there a man here? You shall say no. But Yael, Cabir's Asha, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand and went softly to him and drove a peg into the side of his head, and it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and exhausted, and he died. And see, as Baruch pursued Sisera, Yael came out to meet him and said to him, come, let me show you the man who you are seeking. And she went into her tent, and there lay Sisera dead with the peg in the side of his head. And from that yom, Elohim humbled Yabin, sovereign of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Yabin, sovereign of Canaan, until they had cut off Yabin, sovereign of Canaan.
Thanks, Phil.
Hmm?
Okay. So interesting chapter. It starts to begin to talk about the fourth ruler, military ruler or judge named Deborah. She was a female. She was from the tribe of Naphtali. She ruled for 20 years of oppression and 40 years of peace, from 1209 to 1169. Interesting here, not only was Deborah the fourth judge, but she was also a prophetess. And can anybody identify, or did you identify the four positions of the repeating vicious cycle in this chapter under this new judge, this new female judge? Is it there? June?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had their idolatry in verse 1, and then their oppression when they were sold into the hand of Jabin on verse 2, and they cried out in verse 3, and then Deborah was sent to them in verse 4.
Right. And then, so they cried out, so Yahuwah sent them another ruler, military ruler, Deborah. And in verse 23, it says, on that day, Elohim humbled Yabin, sovereign of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel, and so he delivered them. Okay? But this did not end Deborah. Okay? So chapter 5 gives us more Deborah, more about the fourth judge. Okay? Phil, would you like to continue to read about Deborah for us in chapter 5?
Indeed, I do. Judges chapter 5, verse 1. And on that yom, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, saying, for the leaders leading in Israel, for the people of volunteering, bless Yahuwah. Hear, O sovereigns, give ear, O princes. I do sing to Yahuwah. I sing praise to Yahuwah, Elohim Israel, Yahuwah, when you went out from Seir, and when you stepped from the field of Edom, the Erech shook, and the Shamayim poured. The clouds also poured water. The mountains flowed at the presence of Yahuwah. This Sinai, at the presence of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. And in that Yaman of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the Yom of Yael, the highways were deserted, and the travelers went in crooked ways. Leadership ceased, and it ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel arose. They chose mighty ones. Then fighting was in the gates. Neither a shield nor spear was seen among 40,000 Israel. My heart is toward the lawgivers of Israel, the volunteers among the people. Bless Yahuwah. You who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk along the way, declare it by the voice of the shouters between the places of drawing water. There they recount the righteous acts of Yahuwah, the righteous acts of his leadership in Israel. Then the people of Yahuwah shall go down to the gates. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, wake up. Sing a song. Arise, Barak. Lead your captives away, O son of Abanim. Then he set the remnant to rule the nobles. Yahuwah came down for me against the mighty ones. Out of Ephraim, their root is against Amalek. For you, Benjamin, with your peoples, out of Mechar lawgivers came down, and out of Zabullah, those who handle the scribes' reed. And the hands of Yisachar were with Deborah. And as Yachasur was, Barak went to the valley near his command. Among the divisions of Reuben were the great searchings of heart. Why did you remain among the sheepfolds to hear the bleatings of the flocks? The divisions of Reuben have been great searchings of heart. Gilad remained beyond the Yarden, and why did Dan remain on ships? Asher continued at the seashore and remained by its landing places. Zebulun is a people who risked their lives to the point of death. Naphtali also on the heights of the field. Sovereigns came, they fought. Then the sovereigns of Canaan fought in Tanakh by the Mayam of Midigo, and they took no spoils of silver. From the Shamanim they fought. The stars from their courses fought against Sisera, and the Wadi of Cushan swept them away. That age-old Wadi, the Wadi of Kishon, O my being, you have trampled in strength. This then stamped hoofs of horses, and the galloping of his steeds. Cruz Muros, the messenger of Yahuwah, cursed its inhabitants, because they did not come to the help of Yahuwah, among the mighty. Blessed above women is Yael, the Asher of Kiber, the Quinite. Above women in tents she is blessed. He asked for water, she gave milk. She brought out curdled milk in a bowl for nobles. She stretched her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. Then she pounded Sisera, smashed his head. She pierced and struck through the side of his head. Between her feet he bowed and fell and lay still. Between her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell destroyed. Through the widow, the mother of Sisera, looked and cried out through the lattice, why does this chariot delay to come? Why have the steps of his chariots tarried? The wise ones of her princess answered her. Indeed, she answered herself. Do they not find and divide the spoil? A girl or two for each man, a spoil dyed for the work of Sisera, a spoil of dyed work embroidered, dye work richly embroidered for the necks of the looter? So do all of your enemies perish, O Yahuwah, but let those who love him be like the sun rising in its might, and the land has rest 40 years.
Okay. So there you go. There's Deborah, 40 years of peace. You notice the woman gets the credit, which was prophesied back in chapter 4, where it says in 8, if you go with me, then I shall go. But if you do not go with me, I do not go. I shall certainly go with you, only there shall be no esteem for you in the journey you are taken. For who is going to sell Sisera to the hand of an Asha. So a girl here gets the glory of the battle, and she kills Yael with the stake tent peg, drove it into his skull, and she gets the credit for winning the battle. So here we're seeing Deborah praising certain tribes, and she is fiercely criticizing other tribes for their cowardness and their failure to participate against Yahuwah's enemies. Again, Yahuwah intervenes. With a flood. Deborah honors Jael, this Kenite woman, is the most blessed of women. And there's also a song. This is called the Song of Deborah. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang, saying, and there's your song, the Song of Deborah. So the song concludes with the prayer that Yahuwah's enemies will perish and those who love him will not, will be blessed. And Deborah's reign or rule is followed by a 40-year period of peace. Peace in the land. So again, we see the cycle. Is there any thoughts, comments, or questions?
Nobody dared rise up against her.